Hello, and welcome to episode 217 of Gaming with Grief. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about Control, but I want to remind everybody to please subscribe and like the podcast on either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, and you can go to gwgpodfellows@gmail.com and write me some email, or go to www.gamingwithgrief.com and leave a comment after the episode. You can also find me on YouTube at the Gaming with Grief channel. Subscribe to the podcast there, or the video, or whatever you want to call it. And just remember that the video for the podcast will hit Spotify Monday evening. So, yeah, with that, let's get to the episode. So, I've been on vacation. I'm standing up right now. I don't want to set up everything. I've been in a car for several hours. And I've been mulling about this. I finished Control last week. And I love the game. I love the gameplay. Remedy did an amazing job with the game. With the gameplay, I continue to want to play it, to platinum it. But again, I usually don't talk about that in my reviews like this. But here's the deal. As I was playing it, there was kind of this unsettling feeling, like I've talked about it with God of War Ragnarok. And the opposite. Oh, and The Last of Us Part 2 is another example of that, where I just felt to myself that something wasn't really sitting right with me. And here's why. Very early in the game, they basically juxtapose or float the idea, or I don't even know the right word for it, but basically they presume that someone has committed suicide. And, it's weird and tragic, and that's how you get the main weapon in the game, the service pistol, which at first was like, interesting. That's an interesting way to do that. But they talk about the board, who is this kind of like entity behind what is going on in the oldest house. It's kind of speaking to you, and they talk about how most of the dialogue is gibberish. I had the subtitles on, but it talks about how the old directors are able to communicate to you kind of from beyond whatever their supernatural thing is. And I think it would have just been easier to you become maybe one with the service weapon or something. I don't know. It just seemed like something I would do when I was very young, writing a story of something that was shocking, something that would grab people's attention but really didn't have anything to say. And again, I had problems with, what was God of War Ragnarok, but that was corrected in the game. You can go back and listen to my review. And you can also, like, The Last of Us Part 2, I think, is like the bigger deal. That because in the first game I'd seen the characters go on such a journey that it was weird to me that they all of a sudden would kind of not forget the journey, but just, I don't know. It just didn't sit right. And this was the same way. Now, people are allowed to tell a story however you want. I'm not trying to gatekeep the fact that they used suicide in the game. I mean, we're all adults. Hopefully you understand that, these can be like serious issues that they're talking about. But just for me in general, that was the first red flag. Not red flag. That was the first thing that kind of disappointed me in the story, because I thought with all these things going on with the oldest house and the supernatural, that sooner or later Jesse McFadden would talk about it to someone or be like, is this what's going to happen to me? Because I'm the director now, and I just saw the director commit suicide. Later, it's kind of revealed, and I haven't really digged into this because I didn't want it to affect my review, that maybe you killed the director because he was infected by this entity called the Hiss. It's kind of taking over the oldest house and taking over different people in the building. Either way, I still think there could have been a better way to deal with it, where you talk about like he becomes one with the service pistol, and because you see visions of him talk to you when you get to certain parts of the story. And then there's another big thing that in a game like Senua's Sacrifice, which I covered previously, you can go back to my other episode and watch that. What I think is weird about, not weird, what I think was great about Senua's Sacrifice is they really dug into schizophrenia and what that means for people. And they interviewed people that were recovering from schizophrenia, or at least going to therapy for schizophrenia. They were taking medication. I don't know if you ever recover. But anyway, they were bettering themselves. And I think for me, the problem I had with Control, again, is it's kind of revealed that you, Jesse Faden, have you have this entity inside you called you call it Polaris, but it's basically just something speaking to you. So basically a voice in your head that doesn't say a lot. It just kind of guides you in the right direction, which is a gameplay mechanic, for them to get you to the next point of interest or control point or story beat. It's got this weird fractal pattern that they show off that kind of fades in the background. And then you meet your brother, Jesse, or not Jesse, your brother is Dylan Faden. And it's kind of revealed that he also has like succumbed to the hiss and is hearing voices in his head and like commanding the hiss. And again, we're adults. You can tell whatever story you want to tell. You can do what you want with your game. But I wanted there to be some kind of, I don't know, talk of kind of mental health. Not that they have to go in this big soliloquy, but like they do try to bring therapists in there. But in games like this, it's always about what can we do because we want to harness the power of the person because they're powerful and it's a story of supernaturals and you want that. I think all that is okay. And again, you can tell whatever story you want. And again, to preface all this again or interrupt myself, I enjoy playing the game. I'm probably going to platinum it. The mechanics are fun. But I think for me, I know they're not trying to really tell a story with grief, and I do try to focus on that in my reviews, obviously. But I just think there was these moments where they could have focused on something that was important to the story and something that happens in real life, and they could have did something with it or made a statement about it. Like, it seems like no one in the management or the executive branch of the oldest house of the Federal Bureau of Control is really talking about Jesse's condition, and they just kind of see them as anomalies. And I really wish there is some audio logs you find of them talking to psychiatrists, and there is this thing towards the end where Jesse does find a tape recording where it makes it sound like she's maybe in the wrong and maybe the voices aren't helpful. And I really wish there was more of that. Again, I just want them to say more or do more. And I was gonna go into this and talk about responsibility. They don't have a responsibility to do that. For me, I just think the game would have been more special if they would have taken it aside and said, is Polaris helpful, Jesse? Is this something you think you need? Yes, you get these cool powers. But what else is it doing? With great power comes great responsibility, which is an old trodden thing. But I think about that a long time about, there's a reason why superheroes are in fiction and stuff like that. Like, is it a big deal to have these powers? And when you have them, what kind of just pressure would that be to be able to do this stuff? Jesse is running around cleansing control points, taking care of the hiss, making the old house hospitable again. But I don't know, there was just something in the end where they just said nothing about the whole thing. And I think it could have been more special if they would have said something. Now, again, that doesn't mean the game's a failure, 1 out of 10, whatever. And who am I? I got like 9 subscribers. But I think it would have been more special to me because I heard about this story and how weird, and I like the supernatural, and like her brother's missing is how I hear it pitched. And I think, wow, they're really going to explore some cool, far-out stuff. Well, they did with the supernatural, and I love that stuff. Again, I love playing it. I did like the stuff they kind of brought up with the hiss. The office building they built around it is amazing with the posters of just because your office moves, because this place changes spatial, whatever, doesn't mean you get overtime. Like, all that stuff was like a really nice touch. I just, at the end of the day, I was just let down that they really didn't key in on, like, maybe the mental illness aspect of it. And 2, when you go after people that have been infected with the hiss, you shoot them, which is a big deal in games. You do that all the time. And when they are, when you, like, seize someone's mind and use them to do your bidding until their life meter runs out and they die, that is considered defeating someone, because I did like an optional side thing, like a board countermeasure, which is just a box to check. And one of them died next to me, and I got a credit for killing or taking care of people with those whatever. And I think, again, at the end of the day, am I saying the Control's a terrible game? Is Remedy a terrible developer? No. They made a great game. The controls feel good. But I just wish they would have said more, And I wish that they don't have a responsibility. They don't owe me anything. I'm just playing the game. I just think that there's another game that I have in my catalog that's like a white whale, and I would hope that white whale, which I'm not going to spoil. I did some preview coverage for it for this podcast, but I haven't completed it yet. It's a massive game. I heard it's like 60 hours, so it is definitely a white whale as far as gaming. But it does a lot of the same things, I think, where it uses a lot of imagery of grief to grab people and shock them. But I think, because I'm 43 years old, I want someone to grab you, shock you, and then make a statement. Say, this is why we're doing this, and this is why this is important, and this is why we're using this kind of whatever to say something, especially since this whole game is tied to her trying to find her brother who has been missing, who you find out has been experimented on by the FBC. You know, you were a candidate to be the director, or her candidate to be what he was. He was a candidate, I think, to be director. He's kind of controlling you through the hiss, this entity. You have to push it back. All that stuff is really fascinating. How they've done a multiverse where they've connected Alan Wake to the oldest house is great, and I think really well done. The boss battles are fun. It just felt like there was just something just at the end I think they could have done, and I think that's why I'm calling this the grief of control, because, you know, yeah, it fell short, and I was sad that it didn't address the things. Now, again, do they have to? No, but I think it would have made the game stronger and better for doing it. And I will play Control 2, and I will play probably some more Foundation stuff, some more DLC stuff, the AAWE stuff. And I'll probably play it in the game because I'm few trophies shy of platinum it. I just, you know, I've been mulling about this like in the back of my mind. I was on vacation, but I was thinking about it kind of at the quiet moments of the vacation. And I was reading, really reflecting, and I was kind of looking over my notes, as sparse as they were. And I was just thinking there could be more here, and the game could be better for it. And I'm bummed out. So again, I'm not giving Control like a 2 out of 10 or anything like that. I'm just saying I would have liked a little bit more. So again, I will play Control 2. I enjoyed it. Also, if you enjoyed anything you saw, I know this is kind of a slapdash shorter episode because I've been on vacation. But if you enjoyed anything you saw, please go to www.gamingwithgrief Monday morning at 7 a.m. You can see the podcast there. There's a link there. You can also leave a comment below the episode. You can go to YouTube at 7 a.m. You can watch the video version of the episode there. It's on Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, or Spotify. Subscribe to the podcast in those places. And we go off on Spotify. The video version goes up Monday evening. So go to those places and please interact with the pod. Sorry for the shorter episode. Control was fun. If you want to just play a fun game, maybe doesn't have so much to do with grief, even though I'm kind of bummed out about that. Go play Control. Support the developers. And I think that's it for this short episode, but I will talk to you guys again next week. Goodbye.